Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Tom Rayleigh. Well, the time has come. It's been a little over a year since we started writing this scenario, and you may have followed along in our online workshop, How to Write a Call of Cthulhu Scenario. We did a lot of discussing plots and conglomerating ideas. We wrote and we rewrote, and we did some editing, and still we're not technically finished. Now comes the playtesting, which will be followed by putting it all down into a pleasant to read format. It's a lot of work. So it's now my great privilege to run for the first time Failed Prospects. Our collaborators were Tyler Hudak and Morgan Llewellyn, who did most of the actual writing and editing, Oscar Rios, who helped with story development, Jason Melnichuk and Zane Fleming, who worked on character development, while I worked on continuity, handouts, graphics, and I will be in charge of the final layout of the piece. We will consider this to be playtest 1, and this is episode 1. Note, if you have not watched our scenario creation workshop and you would like to be considered as a player in playtest number 2, assuming that we have one, then you need to stop watching now. Otherwise, if you're just here for the fun, then let's begin our journey into the darkness. Throughout the late 1800s and early 1900s, the collection of fossils and dinosaur bones was all the rage. There were numerous amateur fossil hunters organizing themselves into large clubs. They scoured the countryside with quite a lot of success. That is, success in finding and collecting them, not incorrectly identifying them. Many of these fossils ended up in private or personal collections. The rest were given to museums and colleges for study. By 1923, the University of Cincinnati had one of the best paleontology departments in the world. They received thousands of fossils and old bones from their amateur groups, and most of them were simply filed away, forgotten, and buried, just like they had been before they were dug up. But the head of the department, Dr. William Baker, loved to look through the endless stacks for something interesting. And on August 31st in 1923, he found something he considered to be very interesting indeed. I should really point out that it was interesting to a paleontologist of his expertise. To you and me, it was just a bone. The bone had an almost useless name tag attached to it, which placed it in northeastern South Dakota. No other name, date, or information. But Dr. Baker was intrigued. It took him a month to put together a team that was actually interested enough to accompany him out into the wilds. And on October 1st, 1923, he and his team left for Ohio for South Dakota. Most everyone else at the university went on with their routines. There were classes and lectures and parties. No one thought much about it. On Then on October 12th, the university was contacted by a very happy and excited Dr. Baker, who said that his discovery might make everyone involved very famous. He asked that they send out another team of scientists to assist. He asked for some by name. He wanted Professors Coppersmith and Hall, both skilled in identifying dinosaurs. He strongly suggested that they send Dr. Rathmore from archaeology, which raised a few eyebrows, and Dr. Wyndham Harper from biology, which raised even more eyebrows. Oh, and send a journalist. This is going to be a sensation. As it was, everyone was available except for Dr. Harper, who sent his top student as a replacement. It took you a week to get everything organized, to gather your equipment and pack your bags, and on Friday, October 19th, you and your team boarded the train at 9 p.m. It was a 12-hour ride. There were stops all along the way. You went through Indianapolis, Indiana, Chicago, Illinois, and Minneapolis, Minnesota, before crossing into South Dakota to Sisseton, and finally arriving at the West Haven train station at approximately 9 a.m. on Saturday, October 20th, 1923. The day is cool, but not unpleasant. The sky is clear. Many of the locals are already about their business. There is the pleasant smell of sawdust in the air, and the distant sound of a sawmill can be heard. It's not a big town. Its population hovers around 150, that's all. The train station is on the southern end of town, but you can see straight up the street is the Penman Hotel, where Dr. Baker and his team are staying. You carry your things north past Harold's garage, which seems to be largely devoted to repairing beat-up trucks and logging equipment. You hear the sweet voices of children singing their morning lessons from the schoolhouse. You pass the local doctor's home and office, which ironically is across the street from the graveyard, it being around and behind the West Haven Congregational Church. The Penman Hotel, directly in front of you, is a well-maintained white two-story building. To the left is a post office, and to the right is a small diner. Before you can cross the street, two young men in matching hotel uniforms come rushing out towards you to help you with your luggage. Welcome to West Haven. Can we help you with your luggage?
Thank you. Yes, please. Thank you.
All right, this way. Let me grab that from you. My name is George Penman, and here's Ernest. The owner is my father.
Oh, very nice. I'm James Coopersmith, Dr. James Coopersmith.
Oh, you're one of the people from the Cincinnati University. Dr. Baker told us y'all be coming.
Ah, excellent. Is Dr. Baker at the hotel? Is he around?
Well, he's got a room there. I think he's out on, what do they call it, Ernest? A dig. But my dad would know better than I when we get to the hotel. He'll answer any questions you might have.
Oh, thank you.
I do hope that we have transportation out to the dig. Don't make us walk all the way there too.
So they take your bags and you follow into the hotel. It's a nice place. And behind the counter is a gentleman, looks to be like maybe in his 40s. And he's like, welcome, folks. Welcome. Come on inside. Nice to see you. You are probably the people Dr. Baker sent for, yeah?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. And I'm sure I give the two boys that brought the bags, give them each a shiny quarter.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Hey, your job's not done yet. Hold on there. You're going to have to take their bags up to their room like I taught you. All right, folks. Who's in charge?
Well, being the elder of this here group, I would say that I would be in charge of this group. Professor Hall.
Well, I don't know how your finances are arranged. I assume it's the same as the doctors, that the university is going to take care of the bill in the end. Would you like separate rooms, or would you like to bunk up together? Dr. Baker and his teams are all bunked up together. I mean, two in a room, not with the women. The women have their own room.
I've heard Dr. Coopersmith snoring, and if by all means I'd like to be a separate room and at least a room between.
Well, let's see. On the upstairs, we've got Baker and his team. They're in 12, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So you have your choice of any of the other rooms. So you can take, we got 4 rooms down here on the ground floor, if you'd rather have those.
I'm still working on a bum leg, so if you don't mind, I would take a ground floor.
All right, we'll put you in number 1.
I'll go ahead and stay on the ground floor as well.
All right, we'll put you in. Do you want to bunk with him, or do you want your own room?
I would like my own room, please.
All right, we'll put you in number 2.
Oh, I don't want to go upstairs, so I would like a ground.
Number 3 it is.
Oh, thank you.
I wouldn't mind a room with a view, maybe a corner unit upstairs would be lovely. Thank you.
Well, pretty much every single room has a view of something. We'll put you in 13.
Fantastic.
I can only presume that as students, Byron and I will be forced to bunk together.
Well, if you don't mind, that'll economically help you out.
Oh, do I have? Fine.
So you're going to be in 2 also.
I think we'll never hear the end of it if we try to get separate rooms.
No, we're in 3, by the way, not 2.
Yeah, I would be in 2. And
Yeah,
no, thank you.
All right. We got that down, boys. You heard that? We're going to put them. We'll separate out their luggage and take them on up to where they need to go. Folks, we can accommodate you if you need something here. My wife, Mary, she can do some cooking if you need some room service or coffee in the morning. But there is a diner right next door, the Hungry Jack's. They open at 6:30 in the morning. And there's a morning rush and a lunch rush and a dinner rush. We have a lot of logging people around here.
Sounds excellent.
Do you happen to know, sir, how far away the dig site is from here?
Oh, it's quite a ways out there as far as I know. Seems to me that they've moved a couple of times. I get, the doctor talks to me a bit when he comes back in to get supplies and stuff.
Does Dr. Baker, did he have hired cars or drivers?
We had a couple of old jalopies that they kind of borrow some trucks to haul some of their equipment and stuff out there with them. But that's going to be hard pressed. I was expecting Dr. Baker to come back and pick you up and take you out there. That's what his plan was anyway. He didn't know exactly when you were going to be here.
Do they happen to have a telephone out near where they're at? Maybe hooked into a telephone line?
No, we have a telephone here in the hotel, but that's about it. Yeah, there's nothing out there.
So maybe we can just, after we see our rooms, we can just get, I don't know, coffee and a roll, and we'll wait on the doctor. Is that?
Yeah, you make yourselves at home. There's not really any way to get a message out to him, but he was expecting you. So it's been about a week since last we saw him. So that's probably be in to pick up some new supplies.
Well, if he was waiting on us, did he happen to leave a package?
Oh, no, he hasn't left anything. He's had us store some of their equipment, what he called surplus equipment. We got a storage room in the back. But other than that, no, he hasn't really left a message. I believe the last time he was here, he came in, was that last Saturday? Came in last Saturday. He and Dr. Tucker and one of the boys, was it, I can't remember his name, Harold or Harry or something like that. He had injured himself. And they went off to see the doctor while Dr. Baker stayed here and contacted the university. He used that phone right there. I heard part of the conversation. You must be some of the people he was asking for.
So Dr. Baker and his team, they're not coming back to the hotel each evening. They're staying and camping at the dig site, presumably.
When they first got here, they were coming back every single day, and they were eating at the hotel. But as they have changed their dig sites, they have moved farther and farther away. And at a certain point, they were coming in, morning and evening to sleep here. And then they decided to camp out there. They had camping equipment with them. So I think now it's about like they're staying out there for about a week before they come back for supplies.
And do you or do you know of anyone in town who knows where the dig site is?
Well, I can tell you that my son Matthew, he's 8 years old, and he's probably out fishing this morning. He followed them out to their first site, which is fairly close, I think a few miles, and was curious, curious boys, how curious boys can get. But after that, it was too far, My guess is you probably should just best wait until they get back here and pick you all up. Other than that, and make yourself at home. Guess the university's flipping a bill, so might as well have some enjoyment while you're here.
Sounds like a good idea, but if they are camping out at the site, then could one of your sons check in the storage room to see if maybe there's extra tents in case we need to bring our own provisions?
Well, I can check for you. Give me a couple of minutes. I'll check and see.
Nothing right now, but just to make sure that we have an idea so that when the truck does arrive, if need be, we've got it on hand and identified, ready to load up so we don't waste time getting the pieces together.
Right. Well, there were a couple of boxes back there, so let me go back and check. And you folks, boys, take them up to their rooms, get you all situated, and I'll come up and talk to you once I find out.
And what time is it right now?
9 a.m. So he goes off into the back.
Nothing like 12 hours on a train through the Midwest to make me want to drink coffee and wonder why they didn't pick us up. It's not like they didn't publish a train schedule.
Yeah, it's I feel like I need to stretch my legs. It's been too long cooped up and on that train, too many hours. So once Cooper Smith is got his room situated, I'm actually gonna go and just I'm gonna stroll the town. It's not that big of a town. I think I might just kind of take a leisurely walk around the main quad that the road that goes around the West Haven Congregational Church. I'll go in like a counterclockwise rotation, so I'm passing by the doctor's house first, and then turn by Harold's garage and stuff like that.
Okay. It is indeed not a big town. You can walk around the church in about 5 minutes.
So Dr. Cooper Smith, if you're going to make a round of the town, maybe do stop in at the doctor's house and see what he knows of the injured student. They must be talking about Henry Bates.
Sure, I can do that.
Hopefully he didn't fall down a hill like I did.
Now Henry's a tough one. He'll be fine. He'll be all good, knowing Henry.
Right? The rest of you.
I will go to my room, check it out, and then I'm going to go to the diner and get a cup of coffee and something to eat.
The rooms of all of the place are very similar. They're very country-esque. The beds are soft. The blankets and so forth are old-fashioned, probably hand-sewn things that Mary has either acquired or made herself. The trappings of each room is very country and very pleasant, soft and white and cream colored, and clean. Do a spot hidden, only for the sake of just doing it. Those of you who are in the hotel, I mean.
The sake of curiosity.
Yes, made it. 49.
You happened, those of you who passed, you noticed the maid. Looks like a teenage girl, maybe in her late teens. She's not really dressed in what you would call a uniform. The boys downstairs weren't really in serious uniforms. This is not a fancy place. But she's got an apron on, and she's just coming out of a room that she's dusted. It doesn't look like she doesn't have a big cart or anything. She just has a duster. Got to keep the empty rooms clean.
So I want to go up to her and ask her what she knows about, if there's anything interesting about this town, any good sights to see here. You know, does she live here? That kind of a thing.
Okay. She's like, "Excuse me, sir. What can I do for you?"
Yes, I was just curious to know, are there really interesting sights to see in this town? Can you point out anything that's actually, you know, quite fascinating landmarks around here?
In this town, nothing. There's just forests all around us, and you know, there's a couple of pretty mountains in the distance, but not much here. Sometimes, you know, we have a church social, but other than that, nothing. Is there anything I can get for you, sir?
Not really. I'm an archaeologist, and I'm kind of, you know, I'm here with all, you know, my mates here, and just looking for one of the best. What do you recommend? What do you recommend here in town?
Well, the food over at Hungry Jack's is pretty good.
Yeah. Is there any other places here to eat?
No, that's it. Well, you
That's
can
it?
sometimes get Mary to cook something for you if you want something like eggs and bacon in the morning.
Okay. Well, that's all. I'll let you know if I have anything else. But thank you. You've been really kind.
Mm-hmm. And she goes about her business.
I will head over to Hungry Jack's, obviously, as I said once. So
Okay,
So
so
I'll
you're heading over to
probably be on
Hungry
my way.
Jack's.
yeah.
Clive has checked into his room, and he's. I'm assuming the boys brought the luggage in, so
Yes.
he's doing a little unpacking. But at the same time, he's looking at the any paintings, pictures on the wall to see if maybe Mary herself might have painted some of these of the local surrounding, or if they're just store-bought knickknacks hanging up.
They all look like things that were purchased possibly when they went to Minneapolis last year. They're just cottages and flowers and sailing ships and very generic sort of things.
Okay, well, Clive was a little disappointed. He was hoping as a painter to see a little bit of the hometown life depicted here, or maybe something historical out and about the area itself. So after unpacking, he'll go back to the desk to see if, and I didn't catch the clerk's name at the desk.
Jonathan Penman.
Jonathan. See if he's returned with information about what's in storage.
All right. He's there fiddling with something. I don't really see offhand anything that looks like tents or anything like that. I hope the doctor has considered that. He was very excited when he came in, and as I recall him chatting on the phone with this, I wasn't really listening, you understand. It's just kind of hard not to hear when you're in this room. I don't remember him saying anything about bringing extra places to sleep. He may have just forgotten.
How many folks are out there on the dig before we were called for?
Well, let's see. And he grabs the sign-in I forget
Ledger.
what the thing is called, the ledger, and he says we have Dr. Baker, and we have, let's see, Dr. William Baker, Dr. John Tucker, Dr. Eugene Stewart, Dr. Lynch, Dr. George Lynch. We have a woman named Victoria Winters. Not sure what she does. And we had three young'uns. Where did they go? Oops, sorry. We had David Potter. No, we had Henry Bates, we had Clara Potter, and we had Mr. Martin Butcher.
So it sounds like, given that they wouldn't be tenting up male and female alike.
No, I think the two girls go together.
Yeah. And there's only 8 parties. I bet there's plenty of room for 5 more. Because these are proper, like, camping tents, right? They're not like 2 people little affairs. They're,
to be perfectly honest, I have no idea.
well, I sure hope there's room for us, or they can truck us back every night.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll do a little scrounging around, and if there is a problem, we will solve that for you.
I appreciate that very much, Mr. Penman. Sorry.
Please, I understand that you have a general store in town, so if nothing else, at least make sure that they might have some on hand in case we need to make that last minute purchase.
Well, you can certainly check. Ma is open most days, although I think she closes around 6 p.m. every evening.
Well, if that's the case, maybe I'll take a trip out there just to check in, see what they do have, and get a good feel for the area.
Surely. Anything else that I could do for you folks? Well, I'm always here, so if you need anything, you just ask.
You said that the Dr. Baker was here most nights, and then he started camping farther and farther away. How long has he been camping for a whole week?
Oh, well,
is this the longest he's been away, or?
I'd say, yeah, this is probably the longest. Now I may be getting my numbers wrong, but I think they were at Site 3, and that they were moving, after he left here, they were going to move to Site 4. And so they're farther away than they were. Now, if you don't mind, here, I'll show you something. And he walks around the counter, and he walks out to the front, and you have to kind of walk out into the street. By the way, there's no traffic. Okay. You walk out into the street, and he points back at the hotel, and you can see that there are 2 ridges on either side out in the distance. And he's like, that one's Penman Ridge, and that one's Assenberry Ridge. And I believe they were heading out towards Peppercorn Ridge in order to dig there. So that's where they started, in that direction.
And you say that's about 8 miles off?
I think their first place,
the Penman one.
Yeah, I think that was a few miles out there. But since then, I imagine they're probably at least 14 or 15 miles out now, which is why they're not coming back every night.
The general store must be having a boom, supplying them with coffee and fatback and so on.
Well, I wouldn't know, but I imagine so.
I would think.
Hopefully, Mildred will be supplying them for however long this whole thing takes. That's Ma, by the way. Everybody calls her Ma, but it's Mildred is her actual name. Mildred Peters. Mildred Peters.
Well, I'm gonna head over to the library. Do you know who is the main person that I should be talking to when I get over there?
Well, you guys are getting all of the characters. That's fine. The librarian. That would be Edna Miller.
Edna Miller.
It's not much of a library, just a little old place where the kids can get books to read. The West Haven Free Library.
Mm-hmm. What time does it close?
Oh, I'm not quite sure. I haven't been to the library in years.
Okay.
I'm impressed that town this size has a library.
Well, I think it's probably a collection of books that somebody donated over the years, and there ain't gonna
Don't get me. I think it's real public spirited that you do.
Well, there's not much else to do in this town.
And so it's what I read was that it's mostly logging.
Lumber, yeah.
Yeah. Is there a depot by the train for that?
No, actually, they send that all out on the Pascatuni River.
Mm.
Improv. But I'm going to put that in. Well, folks, you enjoy yourselves. If you need anything, you can talk to either me or my wife, Mary, or grab one of the boys.
If we're out wandering and the truck comes, is there how would we hear about it? I mean, we might see it across town, but there's no bell to ring or anything.
We'll honk the horn. Anywhere in the town, you're going to hear us honking the horn.
That makes sense. I'd love to. Yeah.
Speaking of which, you folks are from the big city, and I don't know how you handle things in the big city, but I doubt seriously you handle them the way that we do. We do not have a fire department, and we live in the woods. So what we have is a volunteer fire department, which is composed of most of the able-bodied men in the town, including myself. Every day, and this is what I wanted to warn you about, every day at precisely noon, names. Where is his name? The owner of Hungry Jack's has a tornado warning siren in the back of his place. And every day at precisely noon, he blasts that thing, one big long blast, to let all of the people in the surrounding area know that it's lunchtime. So if you hear that, it ain't no air raid. We're not going to be bombed by the Germans. So don't you worry about that. Now, if he rings it 3 times, we got a fire somewhere. And everybody drops everything that they're doing and comes running to help. They run to the diner. So if you suddenly see a whole bunch of people in town running to the diner, that's why there's a fire.
Does the church not have a bell?
Oh, the church does have a bell, but they don't ring it except on Sundays. And by the way, he doesn't ring the siren on Sundays.
Unless there's a fire.
Unless there's a fire. And that's the way our little town works here.
Well, it seems like a charming little town, and I'm glad you're such a hospitable fella.
It is my pleasure.
I'm gonna go and wander around and take pictures of your scenic locales.
Okay. All right, so let's jump over to Dr. Coopersmith, who's walking about town. You said you're going to head over to Dr. Weiss's office?
Yes. Walk down the street, just kind of checking out, looking at the graveyard, and seeing my assumption is that there's beautiful trees, and and it's very scenic. And as I get to the doctor's office, I'll go up to the stoop and knock on the door.
All right. Well, the door, you can open the door. It's set up to look exactly like an office, and there's office hours posted. When you step through, you can see there is a nurse who is attending to someone, but she immediately comes out into the reception area. And you can hear somebody in the back room going, God damn it, Doc, that really hurts. And he's like, now just settle down. You settle down so I can give you this shot. And that sort of stuff going in the back. She says, yeah, can I help you?
Hi, my name is Jim, and we just came into town. We're actually my companions and I are joining Dr. Baker and the group of paleontologists who are taking part in that dig outside of town. But I'd heard that one of the students, I believe it was one of the students, was injured, and I just thought, since we haven't had an opportunity to see Baker, I thought I would just quickly pop in and find out if there was anything serious. Is there a wildlife? Was it a wildlife attack, or is there anything that we should be concerned about out there?
Well,
and how's the student? If that's something you can tell me.
The doctor doesn't want me talking about any of the patients that he's had. However, I can get the doctor for you. It should just be a couple of minutes. He's taking care of old Bert Campbell back there. He twisted his arm over at the sawmill.
Oh well, I can appreciate the urgency. Then I'm sure I can wait for a couple of minutes.
All right.
And I'll just kind of stroll around the room, kind of pacing around the room and kind of looking at little knick-knack things here and there, and seeing whatever
Seems
there
like
is
a
to
very pleasant little country doctor's office. It's also his home. You can see that this is like, you walk through the door, and on this side it's the office, and on that side it's the hallway leading into bedrooms and other parts of the house. After just a couple of minutes, you see a big fella with flannel come out, and he's holding his arm. He's got a little sling, and you can see that he's got some serious contusions on his arm, which probably for the sake of tetanus, and I don't know if they had tetanus shots, but we'll say they had tetanus shots. That's why the doctor is giving him a shot. And he's like, all right, Doc, I'll be careful. He says, now you don't use that arm. Don't try to be the big shot, and keep working. You take a day off or two. He says, all right, Doc. And he goes out.
I was going to say, I make sure I open up the door for the patient to leave.
All right. Doctor says, well, what can I do for you?
I introduce myself. Hello, my name's Jim Coopersmith, Dr. Coopersmith. I'm from the university, and I'm a colleague of Dr. Baker's, who's out on that dig. But I had just heard that one of the students was injured, and I thought I would just check in and make sure that it wasn't too serious, or see if there was anything that we should be aware of or be on the lookout for. Maybe it was a snake bite or something. I don't really know what the nature of the injury was.
No, nothing that bad. I met Dr. Baker a couple of times when he came into town. Had lunch with him one day, but it was actually Dr. Tucker. Dr. Tucker? Sorry. Yes, Dr. John Tucker. It was Dr. Tucker who brought the boy in. Henry was his name, I believe. It was kind of odd. He had what at first looked like second-degree burns on his upper left thigh, on the outside of his upper left thigh. An area, I'd say, about the size of a large potato. And the more I examined it, the more I told him. I was really kind of wondering. I asked him what had happened. He says he wasn't rightly sure. He fell asleep that night and woke up in the morning with what felt more like a numbness than a pain. And when he was washing up, he saw that his leg had been what looked like seriously burned. I think that it looked more like frostbite, if you ask me. But there's nothing that cold right now. So a bit of a mystery.
Very queer.
in any case, I suppose there's still some snow out there somewhere, but I don't think they're anywhere near the snow. It's not quite cold enough yet this year to get some snow.
Very unusual. Well, that does seem rather strange and isolated, and certainly not something that we would need to be concerned about or need to take any special precautions. As I would guess.
I treated him for make sure it was disinfected, and he didn't seem to have much pain. Said it itched a little, but it definitely wasn't tissue damage like a 3rd-degree burn.
Right.
Excuse me.
Well, I appreciate your time. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, it's all right. You didn't interrupt me. I get people in here all the time, mostly loggers.
You didn't happen to hear them mention exactly where their dig site is, did you?
No, I'm not even sure which direction their dig site's in.
Okay, just wondering. We're kind of waiting on them to return. So, but yeah, I'm just enjoying the sights of West Haven. So,
well, welcome to West Haven. If any of your people have any problems, I'm the person to come to.
You'll be first one called. Thank you so much.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Give that man a sucker.
So Cooper Smith will leave, and then he's going to continue his stroll. And as he begins to pass by Harold's garage, he's going to duck in towards Harold's garage as well.
Okay. You can hear noise. You can see a truck that's been rolled up onto a small lift, and there's a pit underneath it where you're hearing clanking and stuff coming on. The truck's not in great shape. Looks like it's been really used. But he doesn't notice you if he's under there clanking on stuff.
So I would like to approach, and I'll squat down to where I can see under the vehicle and see into the pit underneath.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll wrap my knuckles on the fender of the truck and call out, "Hello, sir."
All right. Well, you can see he's working on something, and as soon as you do that, he jumps like he thinks everything is going to come crashing down on him, and then he's like, "Oh, I didn't see you there. What can I do for you?"
Oh,
Everybody in this town has exactly the same accent.
Of course they do. I apologize. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to startle you there. I hope you didn't hurt yourself.
No. Oh, what can I do for you? Got something you need worked on?
No, actually, I was wondering. I was kind of curious. Maybe this is an unusual request, but I didn't know if maybe you might have any vehicles that you could lease. Anything that I might be able to borrow for a few days to drive around. I then introduce myself and say how me and my companions are here to meet up with Dr. Baker and the dig, and just wondering if maybe there might be a vehicle available for rent.
He starts to climb out from the pit, and he's like, "Can't say that I think if anybody, Leon Truss, he lent a truck to Dr. Baker and his team. They've been using it. That was in a pretty good shape. And then I think somebody else across town lent him a car, but it's not that kind of town. We don't really have extra cars. These are all working vehicles, and people need them to work. You might be able to get somebody to drive you somewhere if you need to, but other than that, do you know how to ride a horse?
Can't say that I do.
Well, there is a livery stable across town. Riding a horse is easy. You've never ridden a horse. That's just amazing. Well, I don't know. I can check around, but I can't envision much luck in that direction. Go ahead.
You wouldn't happen to know what direction the Dr. Baker and his team are digging, do you?
I have no idea. Haven't really interacted with them folks. I heard them talking about them over at the diner a couple of days, but that's about it. Sorry.
I appreciate your time.
So what next? Wait, well, let's go back to everybody else. Let's see.
Sure.
Byron, what are you doing?
Well, while they were having their conversation, I went to Hungry Jack's.
You went to the diner. Okay.
Yeah.
Looks like the diner, when you go inside, will seat only about 20 people. What time is it? It is like 9:30, 9, let's say almost 10 o'clock. The place is dead. There's maybe one person sitting at the counter drinking some coffee and having a piece of pie. There's a waitress behind the counter cleaning, and you can see there's somebody through the hole in the kitchen who's doesn't look like maybe he's making soup or something. So you can hear him chopping vegetables.
Okay.
Welcome. Please have a seat anywhere you like.
Hello. I kind of just walk up to the counter. I take a seat at the counter.
I have a seat. What can I get for you?
I just want a strong coffee, miss.
You got it. You like cream and sugar? Or do you like it black?
Just black, thank you.
There you go.
God.
I haven't seen you around here before.
Yeah, I just got in, sent by the university. You've probably seen some of the folks around.
Oh, yeah, quite a few people.
I'm going to be honest, I don't really want to be here, but, that's what you got to do, I guess. Anyway, what's your name, miss? I didn't catch it.
I was just looking that up. Nina. Nina something.
What does she look like? 'Cause
she's a pretty little thing.
Okay.
Probably in her 30s, though.
Nina's a nice name for a pretty young thing.
You better be careful. My husband's the cook.
I can't. I just wink at her.
You don't look like you're much out of diapers yet. What's your name and who are you?
Oh, Byron Phillips. I'm a student at the university, biology.
University
literature.
student. Oh, well.
Yeah.
So you're with Dr. Baker and his team. But I haven't seen you in here yet eating.
Supposedly. Well, we just arrived.
I see. So you're the new folks.
Yeah. Feels weird being back in a small town, though. Haven't been back since before I started at the university.
You came from a small town too.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen Dr. Baker in a week or so, but he was coming in pretty regular when they first arrived.
Did you notice anything odd about them at all?
Odd? No. I mean, I suppose everybody's a little odd, from the city and they come out to the country. But no, Dr. Baker was a very nice man.
Yeah, well, I guess
he and his comrades, I suppose some of them were nice to the others. That Tucker feller was thought that he was hilarious, like to go on and on telling funny little jokes.
God damn it.
A couple of the other ones were a little bit more dour, but I never grew.
Did you know that one of them got injured? I heard that one of them got injured.
I didn't hear anything about that. No.
Okay. This small place, diner, you thought you might know anything? You got any gossip? I love a bit of gossip.
Well, everybody in town knows everybody in town.
Yeah.
And pretty much nobody can have any business other than what everybody knows.
So it's just like any normal small town. If you do something, everyone knows about it.
pretty much. But we like it that way. Everybody watches out for everybody else.
Yeah. Actually, I'd like a slice of pie as well.
Would you like cherry, strawberry, or peach?
I'll take cherry. Good old cherry pie.
Cherry pie.
Yeah.
So she gets you a slice of cherry pie. Professor Clive, what are you up
to? He had walked off to the general store.
Okay. So you head over to the general store. Just a second. Why have I missed this?
Operated by Ma Mildred Peters.
Yeah. Just a moment. I have a file that seems to be missing. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Okay, let's see. Ma. The restaurant is Carl and Nina Clearwater. So that's the name that you get there. All right, so you walk up to it looks like a slightly older building. Needs a little bit of a paint job on the outside. There's a lot of signage that Ma has attached to the outside of the building. There is a large pickle barrel on the porch, and there is an old, they have a freezer. Maybe not. I'll have to research that. Anyways, you walk inside, and you can see it's pretty much a general store with a lot of goods on shelves, goods on the walls around, and then central shelves down the middle. You can see that Mildred is behind a counter. You assume it's Mildred. She's an older woman, and in front of her is a younger little woman looking rather proper, in that she's, got her hair up. And they seem to be having a little bit of an argument as you walk in. If you'd like to do a listen roll, see if you hear what she's saying.
Try not to eavesdrop, but I can't help but
it's a small room. Yeah.
Overhear something, and no, I can't.
Okay. So as you walk in, a little bell rings on the door, and immediately the woman sort of hushes up, and Mildred, the Ma, says, can I help you?
Excuse me, I hope I wasn't interrupting anything.
Oh, don't worry.
I'm just here, another member of the DIG team. I understand Dr. Baker has a account open with you, maybe, regarding supplies and goods for their campsite.
Yeah, he's been coming in on a regular basis to pick up supplies for their camp. What can I do for you?
I just wanted to know when his last purchase order was. Just get an idea. Do you happen to have an inventory of what he's been asking for?
Oh, I can remember some of the items. He was in here last Saturday, maybe. He ordered. He didn't order. He got the usuals, eggs and things like that. And when she says eggs, the other woman says, "Did you give him some of the rotten ones?" And she's like, "Just hush up. That was just an accident. It was just something that happens sometimes." She says she got eggs, and they got some coffee, so they could make coffee out where they are, and they got some dried meat and beans usual sort of stuff that you'd have out camping. Nothing too perishable.
Well, I've got another team that just arrived into town, and we were expecting the doctor or at least one of the current members of the team out there to have been in this morning. When they came in last week, about what time did he show up at your store?
He and that other fellow, the tall one, and one of the boys came in, I'd say around 9 a.m. or so. I don't really recall exactly the time. It was in the morning. And they got some stuff to take with them out there.
Has all of their shopping been in the morning?
Well, no. When they first arrived, they were here a lot more often. But then they weren't shopping so much then because they were eating at the diner.
So they've only made one trip here since they've actually been camping on site.
Two, maybe three.
Okay. Well, I was hoping that they would have already been in town to greet us, but knowing that
I'm sure they're going to be running out of stuff really soon.
And that's my point, that we were expecting them today. So hopefully you can maybe work up the same kind of order. And maybe I could be around to pick it up. We're waiting on a car horn to signal when they actually arrive. But if we can have everything lined up so that we're not slowed down, we kind of in a hurry to get out there to the site.
Well, I can certainly put together more or less the same stuff that we did last week, and you can make any final choices when you come back. I certainly can do that.
Okay, and given the fact that there's another 5 of us, if you probably almost double that order.
Ooh, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, it is a big team out there, which makes me concerned whether or not they provided for us with tents and facilities there. Did they happen to purchase anything from you regarding tent supplies or other type of hardware equipment?
No, nothing like that. If they had anything like that, they brought it with them. I can probably get something like that, but it's going to take a week or two.
Oh, well, I can only hope then that they have enough there. Usually when we do these digs, we do have fairly large tents, but at the same time, when we do these digs, we don't usually have that many people on site. So I just want to make certain that my team is well provisioned. Again, hopefully they're going to arrive within the hour, but I just wanted to give you a heads up regarding our needs, and we'll just put it on Dr. Baker's order. He's got a charge card being built up.
He's just got a running tab.
Okay.
He said the university ultimately is going to pay for everything. So. Right.
That's normally how we do business. So I do appreciate your time, and I hope I didn't interrupt anything. You've got a lovely town here. Since I'm here, I'm about to head across to the diner. I hope they don't close up for breakfast too soon, but anything you can recommend?
No, that's about the best place to eat.
Okay.
The other woman, do a psychology roll.
Nope.
Okay. Well, even without a psychology roll, you can tell that she's a little, I don't know if you'd call it uptight or pissed. You definitely got the impression that she was having an argument with Ma, which you've interrupted, and she looks like she's maybe anxious to get back to that our argument.
So seeing her angst at me being here and ready for me to leave, what's the body language that I'm getting from Mildred. Is she also wanting me to leave, or is she
No.
dreading the moment?
Yeah, she's probably dreading the moment more than anything else.
Okay.
You get very much the idea that this is a disgruntled customer.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of hang around and continue the conversation just for a few more minutes, but I first take the opportunity to turn to the other woman and apologize to her. I didn't mean to interrupt your conversation, but I hope you understand. We were kind of expecting the doctor to already be here, and I don't mean to interrupt your activities. So if you can please bear with me just a few more minutes, ma'am.
Well, she's like, oh no, please continue. You're with that Dr. Baker fellow.
Yes, he's the lead doctor from our university, and he's called another portion of our team out for the site.
Did he discover something out there? He came in the other day saying something about putting West Haven on the map.
Oh, well, I know that he came here excited with some bones that he had found, and so I'm hoping, from what you're saying, that he has found evidence he's looking for. So if that's the case, then yes, indeed, your town
So
will.
is that what you folks do? You look for old bones?
Well, we do, but the ones that are in the ground, ma'am. Not the.
But what good are they?
Oh, we use them to kind of tell us a little bit of how we as the human race came to be, kind of get a good feel for how life has progressed through the eons, through the years. Gives us a good idea of researching a little bit of our own immunity system. So the more we can learn about the past, the better we can prepare for the future.
Well, I didn't really understand anything that you said, but I guess if they're important to you, they're important to the world.
We look at it that way too. So thanks again. And Mrs. Peters, or do you prefer Mildred?
Well, Mildred. She's the other
Mildred.
woman. She's like,
Yeah,
that's
what
me.
I'm talking to.
You can call me Ma. Everybody calls me Ma.
Ma, okay. Well.
And the other woman says, Peggy Fleming.
Peggy, oh, I'm glad to meet you. I'm sure I'll meet you some more. I consider the fact that the team has been out on site for over a week. I do hope we get back in town, a chance to meet more of the town folk.
Well, just make sure that Mildred gets you fresh things. And Mildred just immediately pipes up. She says, I'm telling you, Peggy, those eggs came in fresh Friday morning. Are you sure you didn't mix them up with your own older eggs? She says, no, I didn't mix them up. They were rotten. And Mildred just sort of sighs. She's like, we must have gotten a bad batch. Of course, I'll replace anything that you need. She's like, fine.
Well, again, Mildred, let me go ahead and say goodbyes, and I'm sure you'll have everything in order for us when the time arises.
Sure.
But again, thank you for your time.
Have a nice day. Come again.
Thank you. It was good to meet you. And with that, I walk out to go across the street to the diner.
Okay. Harold Rathmore, Dr. Harold Rathmore, what are you up to?
I am heading over to the library.
Oh, that's right. All right. You head over to the library.
I'm going to go speak with
Edna
Miller.
All right.
As soon as I get in the library, do I notice anything? Is it just a regular little library? Is there nothing peculiar about it?
It's a fairly small library. It's got like a couple of rooms. It looks like it was an old house that was kind of semi-gutted and just turned into a library. You're pretty sure there is living space up above. And Edna, when you walk in the door, there is no bell, obviously. The place is empty on a Saturday, and Edna, an older woman, is sitting behind a desk, and it looks like she's knitting something. As you walk in, she actually is startled that somebody has actually walked into the library. And she's like, oh. And she just looks over at you and smiles a big beaming smile.
Well, hello there. My name is Mr. Harold Rathmore. I'm actually here with the. Oh, sorry. I look around.
There's nobody in the library.
And I said, okay. I wanted to find out a little bit more about the history of the town, and I was wondering if you have any books or any literature, especially of recent events. I'm not sure if you're aware, but our colleagues, Dr. Baker and associates, have been here, and I'm just curious to find a little bit more history about New Haven.
I mean, West Haven.
West Haven, sorry.
Oh, I knew I should have put West Haven's founding and all that stuff in here. Well, let's just say that she gives you a rather pleased to finally tell somebody the history of West Haven's story, and it's pretty much boring. It was a very small logging town when it was founded, and then they said they were going to bring in the railroad, and as soon as they did, people started building things like the Penman Hotel and the diner and things like that, and it never really amounted to, just because there's a train stop doesn't mean that it turns into a big town. Other than that, there's been some, originally there was a little bit of contention with the Indian tribes, the Lakota tribe. The Tri-Lakes Reservation is just to the east, sort of the northeast of the town. Not immediately, but it's out there. And but for the most part, they get along just fine with tribal members if they come into town.
Is there any, has there been any interesting happenings of late or any news here at West Haven? I figured you'd probably know. You're probably the first person that would actually know. But
Well,
I think interesting that happens here.
She for some reason, she hasn't really asked you about who you are yet. And she says, oh, well, recently, a paleontologist from Cincinnati came to town, and he's been digging around up in the hills and says that he's found something. He's going to put our town on the map. By the way, who are you?
So I said, well, my name is Dr. Rathmore, and I'm here kind of chasing up that the expedition actually. And can you talk a little bit more? Can you say a little bit more about what did this gentleman say anything about what putting West Haven on the map means?
Well, I think that he's out there looking for dinosaur bones. Maybe he found some. He didn't, tell me directly. I hear this through the grapevine. But, if he found something really important, then that would certainly bring more people to town.
I see.
But really, the history of our town can go, this has been Lakota territory for the last 14,000 years. And digging around, you can find old arrowheads and spearheads and things like that practically everywhere.
How's the relationship with the Lakota tribe now?
It's fairly good. Of course, there were the Indian Wars that happened back in the mid-1800s, Custer and all that. That wasn't right here, but the white man and I'm going to say it because they would say it, the white man and the red man have not always been on very good terms with one another, mainly because of what we did. But they're okay now. They stay on
And
the
you said,
reservation.
and you said the reservation was how far away from here?
Oh, not well. I mean, they sometimes come into town. It's everything to the right of Peppercorn Ridge is reservation territory.
I see. Interesting. Any interesting gossip about this town that you'd care to share with me?
Well, I think the Dr. Baker team is probably the most exciting thing that's happened here in 10 years.
Very interesting.
Other than that, long before the logging, there were attempts at mining. I think before 1861, this was all Lakota. They call themselves Lakota, but we call them Sioux, the Sioux Indians. That's a French word, before I know it was their territory, but it was, I don't know if you'd call it purchased. It was taken, or it was an agreement between the Lakota and the United States. But that's when the United States sort of took over the territory. It was the Dakota Territory. It was established by the U.S. government, and it included North and South Dakota, parts of Wyoming, Montana. And then there was some logging, there was some fur trapping, there was some mining that went on, both legally and illegally. And eventually it became a state in 1889. And West Haven was established sometime right after then. So it's not a terribly old town. It's not an old town like places in the East.
Interesting. And dinosaur bones, you say, huh? Is there a lot of history of dinosaur or kind of any types of excavations or things like that?
Not in this territory, no. I mean, there are sometimes people who find things, that just kids find things in their backyards in this part of the country.
And I take at this point I take a glance over, I look around. Is there like a lot of books here, or is it just what's the makeup of it?
They're not like Dewey Decimal. There's not even enough to put in Dewey Decimal. There's books that are arranged probably more in her head. If you needed to find something, she'd kind of know where it was. But you can see that a lot of it is just reference material. There's an encyclopedia. There's a lot of literature books, but they're just the common sort of things that you'd find. Tom Sawyer, all early American and English literature and stuff like that. Probably not a thing in the place in a foreign language.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in French, maybe one or two things in French, but that would be kind of odd.
Is there anything, if I look around, is there anything that I could see that might be interesting about the place?
Well, do a spot hidden for me.
Let me see. Yes, barely.
Okay. Yeah, there's nothing.
Well, there you go. Okay. Well, I tell her, thank you. Thank you very much for regaling me about your town, and I'm sure I'll probably see you around. And I think a Hungry Jack is the best place to get food. Is that correct?
It was pretty much the only place.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you for your time. If you have any
right.
questions, I'll be sure to come back, and I'll leave you to your knitting.
Right. Which I don't know what she's knitting, but she's knitting something like a sweater. Marcus, what are you up to?
Assuming that I got coffee and a roll at the hotel.
Okay.
as was requested.
Yes, you did.
I'm taking a stroll. I got a surprisingly decent stipend from the department for film, so I can, because this whole Dr. Baker thing was such a big deal. So I'm wandering town. I'm taking arty photographs. I'm looking at the names in the graveyard, who settled here and when. I assume the answers are like 1860s and
Right.
Northern Europeans.
Right. Nothing more or less, nothing beyond 1860, or nothing earlier than 1860.
And as I'm photographing the countryside, does anything strike me?
Not really.
Interestingly,
There are spots of it that are lush. There are spots of it that you can see go off in the fields. Now,
it's fairly hilly, right? And the two ridges are pointed out to us at the hotel.
Right. And it's fairly flat right where you are, and you can see dotted throughout the tree line around, you can see houses and things like that. You can see, like I say, it's not really cold. It's kind of pleasant out, but you can still see the smoke from fireplaces, going up. And there's
people are really cooking right on their cook stoves, and at this point,
and there's kind of a brown gray layer, if you will, when you look. You can't really see it if you look straight up because you're looking through it, but if you look towards the edge, you can sort of see there's like a little cloud that hangs over the town. But that's not unusual because it's everybody's smoke from their fireplaces just sort of hanging in the air at a certain level. It's actually quite quaint.
Yeah, and I'm from a fancy city like Cincinnati, so.
Yeah, it's very quiet. You do hear a lot of animal noises. You hear birds, you hear squirrels doing their strange laughter, sort of sounding chittering that...
and chasing each other around.
Yeah, chasing each other around in the trees and things like that. And you see the occasional truck or so go by, usually hauling stuff, hauling lumber, things like that. But other than that, there's not really any what you'd call, there's like no fancy city cars, automobiles, or anything like that around.
Yeah.
I should say that there is a gas pump in front of the general store. That would actually make sense. I didn't put it on the map, but it would make sense.
It does. And I was, and in that regard, and in playtest mode in particular, I'm trying to just, again, like either there's a river junction and then some piers, or there's a train station for the lumber. Like it's got to have.
I didn't really think of it, but it actually would make a lot more sense if there was a mill and a lumber station on the map. So
we can just put those in somewhere. And if we came on train, it's probably not a river junction. It's probably a train lumber thing. Just for the sake of saking it. So having had only coffee and rolls, and not having heard the horn blow by 11:30 or something, I'm going to be very peckish and very concerned about where Baker and company are, and I'm going to sort of try to get, if people are still at the diner, I'll pull them in. Anybody I can find that came in on the train with me, I'm going to say, they should really pick us up.
We'll say that you're all conglomerating at the diner.
Mm-hmm. And how long?
The portions at the diner are big. They're lumberjack portions, so.
But, if nobody comes for us, I mean, they know when we were getting on the train.
Well, they actually probably didn't.
Was that telephoned or telegraphed?
It was telephoned. but it was telephoned last Saturday, and you
And
weren't
they've
even
been away.
you weren't even told probably until Monday.
Right.
And then you
right.
guys had to get everything together and decide when you could leave school. And it wasn't until the next Friday night. You left on a Friday night.
And this is also playtest mode sort of stuff, perhaps. Would we have been told to bring tents and sleeping bags and lanterns?
He didn't tell you anything like that.
Okay.
You would bring the equipment that you would be associated with your thing.
Mm-hmm.
You thought you were staying in the hotel.
Right.
That was your impression. That's where we're told that Dr. Baker was staying.
That's where we were sent to go. Yeah.
So yeah, you wouldn't have been told about tents or anything like that.
So around noon.
Yeah, at noon, the lumberjack cry, the big horn goes off, and it sounds like what you'd think an air raid siren. And then the lumberjack. About 5 minutes later, the lumberjack crowd comes in, and the whole restaurant fills up.
Did they come in a bunch of trucks?
Yeah, they drive it. Some of them drive in. Some of them walk up the road. It's not that far, the mill. And another young girl joins the crowd. Actually, a young girl and a young man joined the restaurant. One is a waitress, and one helps the guy in the back, bus tables and clean and cook. And so there's 4 employees now at the restaurant working. And they're good. The food's delicious.
I'm going to elbow Dr. Coopersmith and say, do you think they forgot about us, or they didn't know what day we're coming, or?
Hard to elbow me. I'm out in the town.
I'm going to elbow whoever I can find at Hungry Jack's.
This is actually a while later, so you've probably wandered back to the.
Oh, I did have another stop I wanted to make.
Oh, where were you going?
So
by Harold's.
Right. If Marcus was done with his scene, Jim will say goodbye to Harold, I guess, who's working on the card, and as he gets back out onto the little road, hands in his pockets, and he's kind of looking left and right and considering his intended path to continue to loop around the church. But as he's looking back to the left, and he sees the West Haven schoolhouse, but then he sees that other building just beyond, and there's like a little placard sign out there that kind of catches his eye. So he walks in that direction towards the school, passes by it, and goes over to the West Haven Community Gazette.
Okay.
And we'll pop in there.
All right. So let's see, find that section. All right, you go inside and you're immediately hit by cigarette smoke. You can hear what sounds like an old-fashioned printing press in the back, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And it's kind of noisy towards the back. And up in the front, there's a guy behind a desk with an old-fashioned typewriter, and he's typing away, smoking a cigarette as he's going. And he doesn't even hear you come through the door because he's busy typing away.
So he's the only person up in the front area?
Yeah, and the place is kind of warm.
Okay.
Warm and smoky because of the smoke.
Are there newspapers for sale or any stacks?
There are stacks of newspapers on the counter, but they're not thick. They're just practically like tabloids,
And are these weeklies, dailies? What are these?
Looks like they're weeklies.
Okay. And how many back issues are available? Does it go back at least a month or a month and a half?
Well, there's probably a stack of everything they've done for the last 2 years.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna do I recall about how long Baker's been working at this? Has it been a month?
Today is the 20th. He's been here since the 1st.
Okay. So I'm going to grab the last 4 editions of the Gazette. So I've got a month's worth there. And I'll come up to the desk where the typist is working and rap smartly on the desk to get his attention.
He's like, "Hey, yeah, oh, hi. What can I do for you?" He gets up.
Morning, Dr. Coopersmith. I was wanting to pick up these newspapers and ask you a question, although I'm sure the answers are probably buried in here, but I'm from Cincinnati and joining Dr. Baker and his crew as they're doing their digging, and didn't know if you knew where they were located.
I'm Ray Lawrence. No, I have no idea where they are, but I'd sure like to interview them. That Dr. Baker said that there was something going on that might put us on the map. You're a doctor too.
Yes, sir.
You're also one of them bone doctors?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We call it paleontology.
Ah. How do you spell that?
Paleontology, and he spells it out.
All right. Yeah. Okay. And your name was?
Coopersmith, 2 O's. Dr. James Coopersmith.
James Coopersmith. So I've been really interested to talk to them, but they seem very busy. What can you tell me about this dig? What do they find?
I honestly don't know. We're here to we received word that there was something exciting going on, and for us to come out and join the dig. We arrived on the train this morning, but
so you've only been here since this morning?
Just arrived today. Lovely town you have, by the way. Lovely town.
Well, thank you. Are you said we? Are you here alone? Are you here with others?
No, I have some companions, some traveling companions, and we're all up at the Penman.
Are they also paleontologists?
There's a variety of disciplines being represented in our eclectic group, but we were supposed to meet Dr. Baker, but he hasn't come back into town yet to pick us up. So I was trying to be proactive, see if anybody had any kind of insight or an understanding about where they were doing their digs, and seeing if I could procure any kind of transportation out. But so far I'm coming up empty. So when I saw the Gazette, I thought, well, maybe there's something in the newspaper I might be able to pick up. So if you don't mind, I'd love to get these 4 issues here.
Oh, well, sure, take them. We got more in the back. I'm going to find out much in there. I mean, we did write up a couple of articles just on what we could find out, but we'd sure like to know more.
Sure.
We'd be glad to. Other than that, old Farmer Mike had a foal born to his, and he gives you a long stream of absolutely boring small town.
I'll be sure to fish another quarter out of my pocket, assuming that these are nickel papers, and plunk that on his desk and say, "Keep the change, my friend." And I'll back out as he's talking and wave the papers and say, "Thanks for the info." And
all right, well, if I can find you over there at the Pema, would you guys be willing to give me an interview?
Well, why don't you catch us after we actually have something worthwhile to say? We don't know anything just yet, but be sure to keep a lookout. We'll come find you.
Okay. Well, you knew Dr. Baker at the university, right? So there is still a lot you could tell me. I'd love to.
Well, I need to get with our companions because I think we're going to be hopefully heading out here soon. But thank you so much for the newspapers, and we'll be in touch.
All right. You're about as evasive as they were. Damn it.
Score.
Why did I pick this job?
Score.
All right. The newspapers don't hold anything other than what you've already known.
Oh, they throw them in the street. No.
Littering, you are thrown in jail.
So I'll take the papers and I'll head over to Hungry Jack's.
All right. All right, so you've all congregated back there. At noon, that whistle blows. The place fills up with lumberjacks, and the place is completely packed and busy for about 45 minutes, and then as quickly as it fills up, it empties out. Few people stay behind, but most of them, all the lumberjacks go.
When Clive entered the restaurant, he found Phillips at the table and joined him. So we conversed a little bit. But as soon as I see the crowd come in and I can see the truck drivers, telltale by the sawdust still falling off of some of their jeans, whatever, they've got that aroma with them. Mm-hmm. I am interested in going up to chat with them, and I'm more looking to kind of question them of have they seen, if we've heard the description of the car or truck that Dr. Baker's team has been using, I describe that to the truck drivers and say, just curious, have you seen this on the road in your particular area? We're trying to get a feel for just where the campsite is, and I was hoping you might have seen something.
All right. Well, to answer your questions, I think just about every truck looked exactly the same in 1923, more or less. Everything was painted black, I think. At least everything in this area is painted black.
Right, but given the small population in the area, there's not that much traffic on the road. So as they're passing something, they would have noticed who's driving. And
it's true. They always wave or honk their horn as they go by a friend, right. Somebody they recognize. No, none of them have seen him. Now the logging, I haven't decided where the logging thing is. It's not important to the story, but it'll be in a completely different direction than what you imagine. It's on the main road, and it connects. It now connects with the train station.
Okay. And so as I strike out in that effort, and I see the other companions coming into the restaurant, I say my goodbyes and go back and join the table. As we've all started to identify that things are getting later than we expected without anybody here. And I mentioned to everybody, it is kind of strange that Dr. Baker is more organized than this. You would think that he either would have left a package at the desk for us. He would have had one of the students here. I mean, even his personal secretary, Joanne, should have been helping to organize all of the efforts and have had something to be ready, prepared for us. So it is quite strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Dr. Hall. This is very unusual. I've tried to ask around town to see if anybody is aware of where Dr. Baker's digging, and I've tried to look for a vehicle that we might be able to rent, but to no avail.
Do a luck roll.
All of us? Just me?
Yeah, if you all do a luck roll, whoever's got the best luck out of all of you, who's got the highest luck score?
I've
70.
got 65. All right, you win.
I have 50. So.
Who had 70?
I have 40 luck.
5.
All right. Yeah, go ahead and see if you can pass the luck roll.
No, 75.
3 rolls and 3 failures.
Do you want to spend 5 luck to get that luck roll?
Yeah. Morgan's not here. That doesn't count.
All right. I'll tell you what. Who's got the next luck down?
I've got 65.
All right. Do a luck roll, but with a penalty.
31. So that's, oh, right. So I re-roll.
66.
91.
All right.
Just everyone chew a pencil.
None of you noticed the giant Shoggoth slither by.
Sorry, I just realized that I was on mute. I had a 7. I have a 65 and I rolled a 7.
Oh,
Oh, very good.
You rolled what? You rolled a 7?
I rolled a 7, and I have a 65 left.
Did you roll a penalty dice?
I did not.
Okay, yeah, roll again.
That is 15.
All right, so you did pass. So as Dr. Rathmore is sitting there, he just happens to be facing in the right direction. You notice an 8-year-old boy in overalls and barefoot come walking up the street with a bunch of fish slung over his shoulder and a fishing pole in his other hand, and he's heading towards the Penman Hotel.
That's the sun, it must be.
Whistling the theme to the Andy Griffith Show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Hey, is it possible we just forgotten about us? Like, you know, the professor in his old age might have just forgotten.
Do a psych roll. Everybody can. Well, everybody doing a psych roll. The paleontologist do a psych roll.
Ought to.
Nice. All right, your ought to tells you that the doctor has one of those personalities where he can get very overexcited when he's very interested in something, and it's very likely he may have either forgot, or they're just going to come in a, it's been a week. Maybe they'll come back in a week, maybe a week and a day. Maybe he'll come tomorrow for Sunday.
Yeah, I suspect that Dr. Baker is just lost in thought, lost in his work, and is unaware of the time that's passing. He may even be oblivious to what the current day is, let alone what the current time of day.
Because there are other doctors there. He said definitely could send somebody back in the truck to pick you up.
And that is why he brought his personal secretary. She's the one that's his oversight for his tunnel vision.
Well, Joanne didn't come.
Oh, you had, oh, okay.
No, Joanne's back at the university, but they did bring Victoria, who is supposed to be acting as organizer, camp mother.
and there's students, and you'd think they'd run out of stuff. I don't know. I mean, I guess we're comfortable enough at the hotel that we could wait 2 days and it wouldn't matter to them very much if they're busy. But I don't, since there's already been an injury, I'm worried that something's gone wrong at the camp.
You know, why don't we go and check with that boy? He just came back from over there. I want to go up and go out to go talk to him.
Oh, I see that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. He might know of a trail or something that we could follow through the woods.
Honestly, I would rather just stay in this town. I don't really want to go to any dig site. Why am I even here?
It'll be good for you, boy.
Well, Dr. Coopersmith, if you do remember, they talked about 14, 15 miles away for the dig site. So I know
but that's by the road. But if there's a trail through the woods, it could be 5 miles as far as the crow flies. We should find out.
Then we could at least see what Harold finds out from the boy.
Well, I think it's an excellent idea. I'd like to go with Dr. Rathmore and go and see what the young lad has to say.
Okay, I'm just gonna go to the church. To be honest, I need to go confess my sins.
They don't do that in the Congregational church.
I know. He kind of
They whip it out of you.
he says it after he says he does laugh. He has a little giggle.
All right, so
one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dr. Coopersmith, you told us about going to the Gazette. I wonder. I remember from Dr. Baker's discussion of this whole dig site was all based upon a bone that he found in the archives that came from this area years ago. Maybe the Gazette or the library has records of who dug this up and where. And maybe using that information, we could at least get their initial site location along compared to what the boy has to say.
That's an excellent idea. Yeah, if you wanted to, Dr. Hall, if you wanted to follow up on that, I think that'd be a great idea.
But before we start splitting our separate ways, let's make a plan of when to meet back, say at the hotel. It's
Yeah.
probably 1 o'clock now.
Yeah, how about we come back and meet? How about we meet at the diner at 6 for dinner?
Yeah, fine by me. I want
I
to go
think-
talk to whoever's in charge of our church anyway. Gotta have a vicar or something.
If the truck doesn't come for us by 6, I really did not sleep well on the train.
All
I
right.
hear that the walk did me good,
Well,
so
6
I'm
is not gonna-
reinvigorated.
Yeah, 6 is not going to get us out to the site today. It'll be nighttime and be struggling to find their site. So if we haven't heard word or the car horn by I would say no later than 3 o'clock, then let's go ahead and plan on spending the night here in town.
We have rooms in town. That's the
Yeah,
easy
we got
part.
rooms, but we
Honestly, why
could
don't
we could stay at work. You know, we could do whatever kind of investigation until 6.
If
Sounds
they
like a
don't
good
come for
plan.
us.
Yeah, but it's fine. You know, as we're saying, it could be like a couple of days or something. So we might as well just wait here. We got the rooms. We can learn a bit more about the place. You know, about jazz. It'll be all good.
Mr. Phillips, I saw you eyeing those young girls that walked to the diner. Don't try to fool me what your town plans are.
Well, Professor Hall, at least I've got the looks.
He is a biology student. He's studying biology.
Got to get a closer look at the human anatomy, you know?
All right, so who's going back to the Penman to talk to Matthew?
And I believe
That's
Dr.
the boy,
Rathmore.
right?
Yep.
Dr. Rathmore and Dr. Cooper Smith. All right. So you
And
head back.
Hall will go to the library.
Okay,
And I'm going to the church.
you're going to go to the church. And Marcus?
I guess I'll follow Dr. Hall to the library in case there's an interesting photographic moment.
Okay. Well, let's do this. Dr. Hall and Marcus, you get to the library. What do you want to do?
Introduce ourselves to the
To Edna.
librarian.
Edna Miller.
Edna. Oh, I hope we're not disturbing you. And
Oh, no.
oh,
Are you also with Dr. Baker's team?
yes, I am. And also Mr. Zundel here. We're both on the newest team coming in.
You have a camera.
We're curious because we understand that the reason that Dr. Baker came out here was that he found an old catalog of a fossil from the area, and I wondered if anything, you know, if there was any record. Sorry, that's a beautiful light. If there was any record of what that discovery.
Well, the school has had, often does a what do you call it, a unit on dinosaurs, and the kids have collected things all around the place. I suppose there have probably been people over the years that have been interested in that sort of thing and have just gone out finding stuff on their own. But there's no formal club or anything like that. You said that Dr. Baker has some bone from this area. I can't imagine how he would have gotten that unless somebody collected it and sent it to him.
Sent or sold, and we were hoping if it was sold, then there might be some record here in town of somebody taking the claim and the honor of such discovery, especially having something shipped to a university.
I wouldn't even begin to know where to look.
There was nothing in the local paper, for example, about a farmer finds giant bone. Do you have your old newspapers cataloged here?
We do. We have the Gazette. I think our collection goes back just about a year. Nothing much happens, especially year after year. It's the same, Strawberry Festival one week of the year, and Sadie Hawkins dance, and nothing much ever happens here.
You have Sadie Hawkins dances. I've read about them.
They don't have those in Cincinnati.
We have chili with cinnamon. It's true.
Don't like hot food.
Do you live in town?
Yeah.
Madam?
I actually live upstairs.
Oh, you're right here. I see. Because the other thing is that we can't seem to find anybody who even knows exactly where the other parties from our school are located. Like, are they upriver or downriver? Or somebody sort of pointed between two hills, but nobody seems to. You'd think that somebody would, from driving all the logging roads, would know exactly where outsiders were.
Yeah, I have no idea. Maybe your Dr. Baker wants to keep it a secret.
Oh, like it's a mining thing. It's not like a mining thing. We're academics.
Well, I mean, there have been. I was telling your friend Dr. Coopersmith that there's been a lot of illegal activity out here prior to the town. Fur trapping, mining, who knows what, probably even anti-prohibition. Well, that's probably still going on, still making their own whiskey.
Oh, but do you mean that that fossil might have come from sort of a secret location originally? That would be why nobody might know.
I have no idea. Don't they usually identify bones when they're collected? Unless some kid collected it.
So that does offer up a question out of game. Did Dr. Baker tell the paleontology department what particular bone that he found, and therefore the catalog date of it being sent to the university? Something for us to reference to then use to research.
Let's do a luck roll for me.
Yes, that would be a hard.
Okay, you got a hard. Here's the thing. He was looking through the stacks at the university, found some sort of bone. He chose, he didn't really relate what it was or what he thought that it was. And he chose very specifically certain people to see if he could convince them to go on this dig. And you weren't one of those people. But it was apparently, with your luck roll, it seemed to imply that you think you actually heard the term opposable thumb. And on a dinosaur, that would be rather unusual. So something seemed to really excite him. And if you actually heard opposable thumb on a dinosaur bone, that would be sensational, especially to a paleontologist.
Completely understand.
But you're not absolutely sure if that's what you heard. And you weren't included. Now you're included. It's like we should have brought Hall and Coopersmith.
Right, but I was laid up recovering from a broken leg, so it's understandable why he left me out of the initial crew.
Right.
But at the same time, the question is, was the box that the bone was found in identified with a date?
No, there was no date,
Okay.
and there was only a general area, and there was no identification. There might have been, well, you don't know this. I mean, there might have been initials, but initials don't tell you anything, but no date. And very likely, in a case like that, being in the paleontology, you know that there's lots of things like that. There are large clubs that love to go out and dig up fossils, and they don't label things correctly, and they're not competent paleontologists, they're just amateurs. Dr. Rathmore would be especially pissed off about stuff like that, because people go and dig up pottery and stuff like that and completely destroy the site, and then bring him the shit and say, hey, look what we found. And you're like, we have no way of now tracing what this is. So that's kind of probably, you suspect, what happened. And probably anybody other than Dr. Baker might never have noticed this thing. Anything else at the library? Other than that, she doesn't really have any more info.
I have no further questions.
Byron, where are you going? You just went back to your room?
I went to the church.
Oh, you're going to the church.
Yeah.
Okay. When you get to the church is locked.
Okay.
It's Saturday night.
How tall is the church?
It's a fairly nice church. It's a colonial white clapboard, pointy thing with the steeple sticking up.
Okay. How do you know how tall that is?
50 feet. I don't know. I don't really.
Okay, so if I got up there, I wouldn't really be able to have a good view, or.
Oh, you'd probably have. It'd be the tallest thing in the town.
Okay.
But I don't think you can get up there, because it's actually the entrance to the steeple would be a stairway inside the church.
Okay. Damn. Unless I did some Spider-Man climbing, I don't think I'd.
So obviously there's not a rectory. The preacher or pastor or vicar lives somewhere in the town. She don't know where.
Okay. Well, if that, I'll just head back to the hotel and make a note to go back tomorrow.
So before you get back to the hotel, Dr. Cooper Smith and Dr. Rathmore get there first. And they go in. Mr. Penman is there. Evening, folks. I imagine you're probably going to eat later at the Hungry Jack's, but we can have fish tonight if you want. My boy brought home quite a catch.
Oh, that's fantastic. Actually, I think we did see him coming in with his haul.
Yeah, he came in about 10 minutes ago. Matthew. Yeah, Paul. And this kid comes around from what you assume to be like the private quarters. If you look on that picture, you can see that like the area underneath and behind the stairs is all their private home. He comes out. He's shirtless with what do I want to say? For crying out loud, my brain. Overalls on and barefoot. And he's like, yeah, Pa. And he says, these people here are scientists like the one that you followed out to their site. Hello, mister.
Well, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance.
What's your name?
I'm Jim.
I'm Matthew. I'm 8.
I'm Harold. That's a mighty fine catch you got there, as Jim has said. Where did you catch those fish?
Oh, I caught him down by the river.
How far?
You want to go fishing?
Oh yeah, I'm actually very interested in fishing.
It's about
As a
2
matter of
miles.
fact.
2 miles fishing from here.
Now, your pa said that you had been following Dr. Baker and you saw where their initial dig site was.
Yep.
You know, I'd actually love to see that. Could you give me directions? I certainly wouldn't want to take you away from your father, but could you point us in the right direction?
You get completely lost out there, but I could take you. I could take you tomorrow if you want.
I think
Pa?
that would be.
And he says after church. He says, "Aw."
Well, we would be much obliged.
Well, I know that you people are waiting for your doctor friend. If he doesn't show up, I'll tell you what. I'll let you Matthew in the morning. I'm sure he's a good enough boy that he doesn't need to go to church tomorrow for the once. He can walk you out there. How far is it? About 4 miles. 4 miles. He's like, if you don't mind walking, you got horses, maybe you can find somebody who'll drive you out there, but I don't think there's much chance of that.
I feel like the chances of getting a driver are pretty slim. 4 miles, that's a sturdy walk. I think it'd be good for the soul to to fill your lungs with this good clean mountain air.
What time do you want to go?
Bright and early. How about tomorrow after breakfast?
Tomorrow after breakfast. So what, 7?
That sounds fantastic.
All right. Well, you know the diner opens at 6:30, but Mary can fix you some stuff here if you want before. If you guys are going to leave that early.
Yeah, that'd probably be best.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
You say, boy, you're going to be a scientist after all. Hot damn, Dad. And we'll call it there for the evening.
All right.
And now, your criticisms, please, so far. I've written down the things that you've suggested. This is great. Anything? Was it okay?
It's good. It's a good introductory. It's a good introductory. Do you? I didn't see the videos, obviously, on how you guys are building this. Did you envision this as a convention scenario, something that's playable in a 4-hour bracket,
No.
4 to 6 hour bracket, or is this something that you think is more of like a possible multi-installment, even in a home setting, where you might be getting 4 to 6 hours of playtime in a single setting?
Yeah, I think it's going to be multiple.
I think in some email you said you estimated it to be between 4 and 6 2-hour episodes.
Sessions?
That
Yeah.
So like two or three home episodes. We didn't consider time when we were creating it because we didn't want to limit ourselves on anything like that. And it's our first time. So we figured we would just create it and see how long it took to play.
And after all, there's, every possible length is desirable for somebody.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I was just curious on what you were looking for and what kind of gaming experience you're looking to present. I find it interesting. The Into the Darkness channel has a unique format where you routinely have 2-hour-long episodes, and sometimes you might have a story, an adventure take 3 episodes long, or 7 episodes, or 35 episodes, mm-hmm. right? But it's always 2 hours at a pop, right? And so I think it would be interesting because I've written scenarios that were convention focused, so it would be something that I wanted to have playable in a 4 to 6 hour single session, or longer books, that I wasn't that concerned about. I was concerned about beats, but I wasn't that concerned about what a beat would be in a session. And because of the uniqueness of Into the Darkness, you guys have a well-established run of 2-hour segments. I would like to have seen a beat designed for each segment.
I get
so
it, yeah.
So we just completed our first session, and other than securing this 8-year-old kid to be a guide for us in the woods, next session, nothing really happened in this beat. Nothing happened in this first session.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, I would just to piggyback on that. That was the only thing I got the feeling, because I think it's a combination of that, and I think it's a combination of the town, because there's really not much in this town, so it's kind of a bare bones town. So then a lack of an inciting incident in the first session makes it feel like drawn out, especially considering the fact that, like, by and large, most of the people in the town don't seem to have to offer much of anything to anybody, right? Like, it's like, oh yeah, those people, those great, yeah, like, we don't know anything, and
Right. Yeah.
So
I feel like we went out of our way to visit almost everything that's on this map. We didn't go to the livery stables. We didn't go to the I'm assuming it's an elementary schoolhouse. Those are and then we couldn't get into the church. So those are the only 3 locations that we haven't actually owned. The post office. We haven't been into those locations yet. But everybody that I visited, no one was able to provide us a vehicle, which is really what I thought. When I saw Harold's Garage on the map, I thought that is a 1920s car rental. That's something that we could go and procure self-transportation.
We actually thought about that, and then we realized that there wouldn't be very many cars available in a town like this to borrow, and that the doctor would have already borrowed them. So it leaves you shit out of luck, unless you can get somebody to drive you out there, or you can ride horses.
Because most people are not going to choose riding as a skill,
mm-hmm.
unless that's hinted at or suggested.
Yeah.
Then we're all going to be waiting for a car.
Yeah, because ride is only a 5% base.
Does sort of consume the whole day. Like
that's actually a really good point. So we could, to be honest, the availability of a vehicle or horse riding is probably your only 2 options. And I didn't think about the fact that none of you might know how to ride horses.
Right. And you could include in the structure of the thing that only people who could ride horses were invited from Cincinnati, because there certainly are people in Cincinnati in 1923 who could ride.
Sure.
Well,
but that would have required knowledge, insight, that we're not staying at the hotel, that we are going to be off-site camping.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it's also something that I wouldn't expect from somebody who's a professor at Cincinnati to know how to ride a horse.
Right. So I've got a couple of questions for you. Tom, what was your vision of, as John put it, the major theme within this first 2 hours?
The first episode.
Right.
What you learned, I'll tell you what you learned, and not necessarily what you were meant to learn. What you learned was the doctor hasn't been back in a week.
Right.
The people in the town think the doctor and his people are awesome. You know, they're not weird or they're not creepy cultists. They're just regular, nice, affable people. It was to establish that Harry was somehow injured in what looks like a frostbite.
Oh, right. We did get that piece of information. That was very interesting.
That, should I say that?
So let me ask you this.
No, you shouldn't say it. If you're not sure, you shouldn't say it.
So let me make a comment here. Having gone to the general store and overhearing the two women and the customer's argument about the rotten egg, while that's interesting right now, I have nothing to really base a real need to delve into that, deviled egg, delve into that. But at the same time, if that's something to pursue in the future, I kind of see it not going anywhere because we're going to be up leaving town to go off to these sites. So it may be something that we stumble upon while we're out there near the site, that a source of what's causing these rotten eggs. But right now in town, it wasn't really giving anything. That's one aspect.
I would describe that differently, if I may. I think that I think you're very right that the rotten eggs are a plot point that we have not yet seen develop, and that maybe we as players can't do much with. But as a player, I also think that's in the realm of creepy pre-action stuff that I find charming or interesting or compelling.
Right, but right now it's just one instance. There's not a, it's not Nana at the hotel also complaining about having a couple of rotten eggs. So it needs. We're going to need to find a few more instances before it gives us something. So it's kind of that thing out there that we're going to remember and then say, hey, I remember this comment, and now we can pursue it. But just throw it out there.
Let me throw this back at you just so that you know. There may have been more, but your luck rolls didn't land the right way.
Okay. That's a fair comment.
You didn't hear certain things along the way.
Right.
And even so, there were two things that were weirdly unhealthy. I can't remember what the other one was except for rotten eggs, but I jotted it down. But I have too many notes.
The opposable thumb on the bones.
No, that's just spooky in a different way. There was something else that was like it was gross, like something else that was icky.
Now, there's something.
Oh, the burns, of course, on
the frostbite burns.
The non-frostbite frostbite burns.
There's at this point, I'm well, without giving anything away. Okay, this is something that I'm going to tell you, but it's something that you would figure out in the next episode rather quickly, and that's that he's not going to show up. Okay, he's obviously not going to just suddenly show up at the end of the second episode.
Actually, we've all figured that out already, because he's so late.
So the first part of this is to establish a little bit of desperation on your part. And the reason why is as you become more desperate to figure out what happened, there's a couple of things that you might do that you wouldn't otherwise do, which I'm not going to tell you. But, okay, I'm going to give you a hint only. And the hint is Dr. Baker and his team were staying at the hotel.
Right. I've considered, trying to get into their rooms and see what kind of stuff they've got. And that might be something that we do later, because it's, we haven't gotten into the evening time yet. So that might be an evening activity. So, and not to harp on the car, but I wanted to give you an idea on something. You don't have to include it for this playtest, but something to maybe consider for a future playtest is, Baker and that crew, they probably would have already borrowed reliable cars, and that's why there aren't any reliable cars. But Harold's Garage could have one truck, like a pickup truck, something that you could get two characters in the cab, and then everybody else can just ride in the bed, right? And it'll also take any gear that anybody buys over at the general store. But this pickup truck, you could go ahead and establish that the pickup truck, the reason why Baker and his crew didn't borrow it already is Harold had told him that it's an unreliable vehicle, right?
Or maybe he was working on it. Yeah,
it's an unreliable vehicle that always tends to need repairs, and so Baker passed on it. Well, because it's the only thing available, that becomes this unreliable tool that the PCs could have access to. So now it makes sense for needing to make drive rolls to use the vehicle, and then
mechanical, electrical repair.
And then the keeper can have it break down when the plot requires it to, and so you're looking at needing to do mechanical repairs or electrical repair skill rolls under pressure, because I would assume that it's gonna break down at the worst possible time, when there's a chase
coming after.
Yeah, there's a chase scene occurring, and so now you're having to try and make this desperate repair as something is coming through the woods or something, or down the road. So that's something to think about for the future, that that an unreliable vehicle is available to them. And then maybe that the library might have old logging maps of the region, so that you might have some maps that have those ridges. I forgot the name of them, but Peabody
Peppercorn, and
Peppercorn.
And that's one of the things that I was going to bring up, was the ridges, because early on you named it as Peppercorn, but later on you named it as Capricorn. Gave I
don't ever remember saying Capricorn.
Pinment, Pinment ridge.
Yeah, but yeah, we
right,
need
he had
to
2 or 3.
Yeah,
Like, there's some mapping that
There's
is
Peppercorn Ridge, and there's Alsbury Ridge,
yeah.
Astonbury Ridge.
Having a larger region map that maybe it's got topographical elevation lines that it shows the ridges and things like that, and maybe some old farming or goat trails or something that you might be able to take a truck onto. That having that as something that you might be able to get access to from the library or something like that would be kind of cool. I don't think we've done
real
yet.
Mapping makes lying easier.
Say that again.
Real mapping makes lying easier.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, just take a place and then turn it sideways and then rename everything, but then actually print it out, and then it's all established.
I actually looked for quite a while to see if I could find a regional map of the area and modify it, and I did to some extent, but you haven't gotten there yet.
Well, that's the problem with this chapter.
Actually, from what you're saying would make sense. Now I've actually got a reason to put in the logging area.
Yeah.
Because you could easily go to the logging office and find such a map. They would have.
And then
it's for sale at the general store.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't probably sell anything like that there, because nobody would buy it.
No, but there's a physical place where they're competing logging firms, or in fact have both, like they have 2 maps, and it's like dealing with rivers, and they're dealing with all kinds of stuff.
But the general store also had the gas pumps out front, and the gas pumps out front imply that traffic is coming by. People might want a local map. So that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And something else we as a team group did not pursue is, we have money in our pocket that we could have been offering up to the customers that came into the diner, even the loggers, now that their shift is over, pay them bucks to take us out once we know an area to go. So there's some things we haven't done yet.
That is certainly a possibility. That's kind of what we thought might be a possibility for you to do.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I didn't go to the library, and I can't recall the folks who did. Did anybody try and do any research of the history of West Haven and the general area?
I did, and I was actually kind of disappointed at the fact that I couldn't turn up anything, or even a spot hidden or anything in that library area.
We didn't anticipate that you'd be asking that, but I think we did write up a little bit. I couldn't find it, but it's not important to the story, so we didn't.
Okay.
We didn't really write it up that much.
I think you should probably not have a library there.
Well, if it's not going to give you any relevant information anyway. I mean, what you did get, but you both went there and you got something. I mean, you got something I couldn't get, which was you got the opposable thumb bone thing from there.
From the library?
No,
no.
That was a side comment.
Professor Clive Hall got that out of his memory. That he
I see.
to recall that there was something.
You just happened to be at the library at the time.
It just seems like it's such a small town to have a library in 1923. But the Vanderbilts were doing it a little bit, but
I was kind of envisioning when I think of this place, I think of, I go to Knott's Berry Farm occasionally, and then the Knott's Berry Farm here has an old schoolhouse. I'm sorry, an old supposed library. And it's really just a rectangle about 30 by 20. And it's got books, and they're usually fiction books for the kids to read in school because the school doesn't have a library. And
how many people?
And they always put free, free library on those old libraries like that.
Yeah.
But there's
most of the libraries in the U.S. The free public libraries in the U.S. are roughly from the WPA era or from before it, when Vanderbilt, I think, was funding them all. And they had Marble, and they were free libraries. And it was because it was an idea, like it didn't just always exist.
Right.
But I feel like communities of less than 200 people didn't really often have community libraries of any kind because they were just too small.
Well, honestly, if we took it out of the story, it wouldn't make any difference. I don't think.
And that's I'm only saying it because
it could be associated with the community Gazette area
or the school. Yeah.
They could be folded into something.
I think it might just be there. To waste a little of your time to build some more desperation.
I mean, I like having the variety of places to visit, and I do like your. I know that, and it's good. The West Haven is a nice little sandbox. I do like it, and I'd like your map. I think it's. I mean, there's just some nitpicky things like the scale of certain things I'm having a hard time with some of the scales because the church is much larger than the hotel. Harold's garage is about the same size as the hotel. I mean, there's a divergent scale going on, and there's no compass rose, and there's no distance marker. I mean, so.
We don't have any compass roses on any of them, but we assume that north is straight up. So,
sure.
How offensive!
Yeah, well, compass roses should be there. We had
the one thing that
in our other game.
The one thing that I just want to make one comment about, which was desperation. So maybe it was just our group or whatever, but I even though we know that Dr. Baker hasn't come back or anything, I didn't feel a desperation. Like it's kind of one of those. Right. Okay.
We didn't want you to think we don't want you to come into this thinking, oh my God, he hasn't shown up. There must be something horribly wrong, because there's no reason to believe that at this point. You know, this is 1923. You're not all sitting there looking at your watches thinking, where the fuck is he? Where the fuck is he? You're like, well, when he gets here, he gets here. This is,
Well,
people aren't rushing around trying to get everything done.
I wonder if there's a way to make that felt, because we're all modern people, and it's like, oh my heavens, somebody's 22 minutes late and I haven't gotten a text, like he must be dead. And also we know there was an injury, a mysterious injury. So maybe if we get telegrams instead of telephone call, and they say like, come on this train and we'll pick you up on the Monday.
Well, then you would be really alarmed, though, if they didn't show up.
Right, but if we take the 12-hour train from Saturday to Sunday, and that gives us a day to hang out in town and learn things, and we all, because we're Call of Cthulhu players, we know we're supposed to learn something, even if the town is sleepy and dishonest. Maybe they're all actually lizards. But we're not expecting
some kind of weird history to the town, you know.
And then on Monday, when they don't show up, we go, "Oh no, this is alarming."
Just putting it into context. They're only 14 miles away, and they have vehicles. There's no reason why they couldn't be here in a half an hour, pick you up, and bring you back there when your train arrives.
My character was a little cross about that.
That's assuming that they know when your train's going to arrive, and they know that when you're going to get on the train, which they didn't know.
One thing we did not ask was, at the train station, is there a regular schedule of train arrivals? And with
probably.
Then it would have been, okay, so the Dr. Baker would have known when we should have been arriving, and with that, you know, we should have been expecting a student or somebody to be here to pick us up. And so, we wait a few hours because we know things get busy at the camp now that they're out camping, and while they weren't really expected to be camping on site. And so we allow a few hours or half the day before, like you said, now we start wondering, okay, we're going to have to start fending for ourselves.
Well, so here's the thing. Dr. Baker comes in on Saturday. He calls the university and says, see if these people are available, and send them out here. We're staying at the Penman Hotel.
Right.
And see if you can get that together. And then he hangs up the phone and ends up going back to wherever the camp is. The university contacts you, finds out whether you're available. Some of you aren't available. They're going to send Byron instead. And then you have to get your stuff together, and you have to, now the train could be coming to this town every single day at 9 a.m. Is he going to send somebody in the truck every single day at 9 a.m. to see if somebody's shown up yet? Or is he just going to wait until the end of the week when they need to come back into town and see if somebody's shown up?
Yeah,
right.
That's the point where I object.
But that also fits with the telegraph,
I think,
situation, because now Cincinnati could have been telegraphing to say, okay, the team is organized. We just put them on the train, expect them at this time. So now when the telegram gets to town, somebody knowing they're going to get paid, because that kind of payment from a university is more than they're going to make from customers in a hotel that are non-existent, because there's not that many customers in town. They'd be willing to take their car and drive up to deliver the message.
Maybe they did.
And we do having these conversations, these post-prandial investigations of our investigation. Sometimes, of course, they're going to ask questions about the future of the campaign that we don't know. But I would say that any rational party in the Dakotas would have somebody at the hotel by the telegraph. And they would know that 2 people were coming on Saturday and 4 people were coming on Sunday, or whatever was happening and then they would travel together. So the only reasonable assumption that humans who were arriving on Saturday morning could have was, if no one's here to meet us, there's something wrong. I think that's a reasonable presumption.
Okay.
But
Let me go ahead. Okay, go ahead. Oh, let me go ahead and finish for the episode, and then we can talk some more. But cool.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we.
Well, let's just, we don't want to make it a 4-hour long episode. Our players included John Hook, Bill Riggle, Josh Harwood, David Gasway, and Hari Schro, with yours truly as the keeper of the secrets. Currently producing up to 4 shows a week with music and sound effects added in post-production in order to create a richer listener experience. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Podbean or iTunes. The costs involved with the show are provided almost entirely by our patrons. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. If you'd like to support our show, please visit our Patreon account. Just $1 to a month helps us a lot. You can find a link in the description below. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and punch the bell icon for updates on our latest shows, and leave us some comments. We enjoy reading them and answering any questions you might have. This is Tom Rayleigh, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure in the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.